Hello there. I'm coming to you today to talk about technical virtue signaling and what I think that means, my definition of it, and what I think of it. So, virtue signaling in general is kind of a call out or a display, vocally or otherwise, that you have some kind of moral virtue, moral fiber. So, as an example, if you're, coming out and saying I'm for the preserving whales or whatever. That's just an example. But essentially what you're saying is, look at me. I have good virtues. I have good morals. And I'm here to show it. And virtue signaling, it kind of trumps the premise of what it is that you're talking about. So if, for example, you're talking about saving the whales, when you come out and talk about saving the whales, yes, there's the underlying problem of save the whales, but what you're doing is kind of stepping above that and going, actually, beyond saving the whales, look at me. I'm special. I'm important. Whatever it is that you are trying to ascribe to yourself and make it publicly known that you are this person. It happens a lot. I think it happens in tech. Here's how I think it happens. You're going through an interview process, and part of the interview process is to solve a algorithmic problem or use some kind of, I would go so far as to say scarce data structure, know certain methods or coding paradigms that you probably won't use as part of your job if you were to get the job. And to me, that's completely virtue signaling. That's virtue signaling wherein a company is essentially saying, look at how cool we are. Your day-to-day actual job may not require you to know this specific algorithm or equation or formula or structure or paradigm or method or whatever it is that we're asking you as part of your programming interview process. But we're so cool that we're asking you. We're so in touch. We're so hip that we're asking you this question. So again, there's like the substrate of, do you know this technical aspect? But then above that is, hey, look at us. We're asking you about it. Like, we know about it and we want you to know about it. And we're asking if you do. So look at how cool we are. Look at how awesome we are. This is what you're going to do when you're working with us. Like, most of the time, it's not. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people or read online that they've gone through an interview process like that, where they've been asked a ridiculous series of questions that have nothing to do with the actual job that they end up getting hired for. To me, that's completely virtue signaling. It's unnecessary and it's a waste of time. Now, granted, if a company is trying to ask you that question so they can figure out how you think, what questions will you ask, will you interact with them, etc., that's probably something else, and that should be made clear. You shouldn't be asked an interview question that has no actual relation to the job except for figuring out what your thought process is or something meta related like that without disclaiming that up front. Otherwise, again, all you're saying is, hey, look at us, look at how cool we are that we get to ask these questions. Like, no, I'm sorry. You're not cool. You're not with it. You're not hip if you're asking these questions and they don't really matter to the job. Some of the best interviews that I've been on, and I can speak for others who I've talked about in regards to this, their interview process was more like, come shadow us for a day or even for half a day. sit down and look at what we're actually working on and tell us how you might approach this problem that it's kind of been sitting there and we haven't solved it yet, or no one's had the time, or whatever. Get your eyes on the actual code and data that you're going to be working with, and let's see how you interact. Let's see how you deal with it. That by far will tell you way more about the company you're working for, and it will tell the company way more about you and how you'll fit in with what they've got going on. Way more than some ridiculous series of questions. I think I heard someone somewhere asked something stupid, like, if you were a coin and you got stuck in a blender, how would you get out? I don't know. Anyways, it just seems ridiculous. Feel free to throw me hate comments and tell me how stupid I am and change my mind. I'm happy to listen to the other side of the argument. The other thing that I also consider virtue signaling is when developers come out, like on Twitter, and I saw this recently, and they'll say something like, you're not a developer if you're doing XYZ. That's not really developing or programming. Like, maybe you're right. That's still virtue signaling to me, in technical virtue signaling. Really what you're saying is, look at how good I am. I'm actually a developer, whereas you guys aren't. You know, it's this kind of crap that politicizes what should be mostly a logical, code-driven job. You don't need politics to be a programmer. Seriously, why are you adding this level of stupidity to it? And frankly, if you're coming out and saying you're not a programmer if you do this and this and this, me personally, I wouldn't hire you. Like, you know, you're making yourself out to be way bigger than you need to be. And you carry that into your job. So you're going to drag that in with your programming. And then what's going to happen when you have, say, an argument or a disagreement or a difference with fellow programmers on how to approach something? Politics instantly will come into play. Well, that's not really programming. If you were a real programmer, you'd use this crazy, ridiculous, complex algorithm that doesn't actually apply here, but I say it applies because I think I'm a programmer and I think you're not. Like, get out. Seriously, get out. You know, that's not constructive or helpful to anybody. I hate it. I hate the whole idea behind that. I also think some of the big companies out there are doing a lot of virtue signaling. I'm not going to name names, but there have been a lot of companies, particularly tech companies, because this is tech related, that have banned certain people because of their either political or otherwise viewpoints. And they'll just straight up ban them. You're not allowed to post videos or post messages or blog posts. I've seen certain blog mediums. I don't mean that word in, you know, as a kind of a pun. I don't mean it that way, but they'll stop people from being able to post blog entries and pictures and all kinds of stuff. That's also virtue signaling to me, because as a tech company, your job isn't to police, you know, unless you're getting paid, you know, by, I don't know, maybe it's federally funded. Who knows? But generally speaking, if you're just there as a provider of information, you're not really there to police to that level, to that degree, where you're saying, look at us, we blocked or we suppressed this guy from, or this girl from talking and saying these things because it doesn't fit with our PC agenda in general. And so now there's a safe space for people where they don't have to listen to this crap anymore. Like, no, maybe it's just me, but to me, that's not what tech is about. Like, that's not what being a tech company is about. I certainly don't do programming so I can police other people's work, or their thoughts or their videos or whatever it is. I do my job because I want people to have access to information. Like, if you really think about it, what are you programming typically? You're programming a way for people to access and manipulate and disseminate information. To step in and say, you know, I'm going to block this guy or block that guy or block this information, to me, it feels counterintuitive to to the whole aspect of what it is you're doing in tech. Granted, there are many other aspects to tech. I give you that, but I'm talking about in the web sphere or, mobile apps or whatever. It just seems so backwards to me. And again, another version of, in my personal opinion, of technical virtue signaling. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. I don't think it belongs in the tech industry, at least in specific areas of the tech industry. And I believe that it's infiltrated the tech industry as a whole. And I really don't like where it's going. And I certainly hope that I don't end up regretting my job someday in the future because I'm required to be part of some kind of systemic technical virtue signaling of some kind. I don't know. I'm using a lot of buzzwords here and I hate that too. So I think I'm going to stop here. I think people generally get what I'm trying to put down. You might disagree with me. That's totally fine. I would love to hear the other side of what I'm saying. Or if you agree with me, cool, let me know. I appreciate the time that everyone's taken to watch 11 some odd minutes of me spattering on about something. I hope to see you again soon. And enjoy the rest of your day.